Item 1 on the agenda is any apologies? Any apologies, please?
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Ingle and Councillor Marshall have... he's arrived. Councillor Ingle has asked me to pass on the fact that he's stuck on Pride Park, and we'll get here in due course.
That might be uncomfortable.
Councillor Repton and Councillor Eldred, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Anderson to inform the meeting.
Right. Councillor
Anderson is always present.
We've also got an apology from Councillor Anderson. Item 2 on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen. Any declarations of interest? Item 3 on the agenda is the minutes of the meeting, full council, on the 25th of September 2019. Can I take somebody move the meeting, please? Right, I've got some housekeeping to inform. You'll probably have noticed that there is a confidential item on the council agenda. This is a minute extract from the council cabinet requiring approval, containing information that may be commercially sensitive. I intend to take this item later on in the agenda, the last item, and will exclude the press and the public because of its confidentiality. Councillors will also find in their seats a late item that has been circulated this afternoon in relation to the allocation of committee places following the announcement made by Councillor Willoughby yesterday that he had joined the Liberal Democrat group. I intend that this item will be taken prior to the notice of motion. Council is also reminded that we are in a period of highlighted political sensitivity prior to the general election on the 12th of December. Please take particular care to restrict your contributions this evening to the matters under consideration on the agenda. I will not accept any unnecessary debate on national issues. Council will also find red ribbons and a flyer either in front of them or on the seats in recognition of World AIDS Day, which will take place next Tuesday, the 1st of December. The day is an opportunity for individuals and organisations across the world to demonstrate solidarity in their fight against what remains a global pandemic. I'd like to encourage you to raise awareness of this important issue by posting a photograph of yourself wearing your ribbon on your social media accounts if you have one. I'm delighted to welcome with us tonight Andrew Tang, who has joined us in the council chamber. Andrew has recently completed an apprenticeship with Derby City Council and has been recognised with a regional award. Andrew won the highly commended Advanced Apprentice of the Year at the East Midlands Apprenticeship Awards in September, defeating hundreds of other candidates. Since completing his apprenticeship, Andrew has gone on to secure a role as an Employment and Skills Support Officer in the Economic Growth Service. He has also, let me say, has got an award, or at least has passed to be a football, part of football administration, and he's dealing with that with a team called Spondon Dynamos, of which I've got a connection, which was very pleasing from my point of view. And he's got a coaching certificate. Congratulations to Andrew. Fellow councillors, can you give him a round warm of applause as I invite Andrew to the front to receive a certificate and trophy. I know you want me to mention this, so I will announce that I will be hosting a charity music night on Monday the 2nd of March 2020 at the Grange in the Clover, with the proceeds going towards Derbyshire Children's Holiday Centre and the Derbyshire, Leicestershire and Rocklandere Ambulance. The evening will include live music, karaoke and a buffet, all in for a cost of only £15, and tickets can be purchased online via Eventbrite. Please speak to the Mayor's office for more information. But I do look forward to seeing all of you there on the evening, all of you. Okay, thank you. Sadly, we're all aware of the serious flooding that affected Derby and Derbyshire last month. We are due to hear statements from the Cabinet member and the opposition spokespeople later in the meeting on this matter. I'd like to add my own thanks to all those from both Derby City Council, the emergency services who worked through the night to protect residents and property from serious flooding. Well done to everybody involved. It was terrific to see so many people working as one team. However, the flooding was not without tragedy. Annie Hall, a local businesswoman and former High Sheriff of Derbyshire, sadly lost her life. Annie was well known to the Mayor's office, having attended numerous engagements during her time of office. She was fondly remembered as a dedicated public servant and a passionate advocate of a wide variety of causes across both Derby and Derbyshire. I have written to her family to express our condolences and will be attending a memorial service in Derby Cathedral on the 9th of December. I knew Annie, having met her on a few occasions. I was also saddened to learn of the death of former Mayor of Derby, Barry Chadwick, shortly after our previous meeting. Mr. Chadwick served as a councillor for more than 25 years and was elected mayor in 1991 before retiring from politics a few years later. I would like to invite any councillors who knew either Annie or Councillor Chadwick to say a few words before we pause for a minute's silence. Councillor Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Barry Chadwick was a colleague of mine in Allestree. He was born on the 27th of May 1928 in Wirksworth. Educated at Milford Infant School and Herbert Strutt School. He was married to his wife Beethig for 66 years and had 2 children, David and Peter. He was a teacher and began teaching at Chaddeston, Littleover, Chellaston before moving from Allestree to Caldecott near Cambridge, where he took up his first headship. Whilst in Allestree, he had a moped, and I don't know if people remember mopeds, small, very limited power and difficulty climbing hills. And Barry had one of these to get from Allestree to Chellaston. The only trouble is he had the steepest hill in Allestree to challenge him. And that proved interesting and noisy to Allestree residents, because they'd hear him and then look round to see a gentleman in a gabardine coat with a peak cap on, turned the wrong way round. He thought he looked like Marlon Brando in The Wild One, most residents in Allestree felt he looked like Frank Spencer, in some others do have them. Barry became a head teacher at Dovedale Primary School in Long Eaton in 1968, where he had his tenure until his retirement from teaching in 1988. Fire in the school in 1974 and flood in 1977 could not diminish his commitment to the school. And that's where I first met Barry Chadwick, when I was a local councillor in Erewash. Politically, Barry became an Allestree councillor in 1973, and he continued in politics until 1995, becoming chair of the Derby Corporation Transport and the Housing Committees. As you said, Mr. Mayor, he became mayor in 1991. The highlight of his year was conducting the Sid Lawrence Orchestra playing American Patrol, as big band music was his lifelong love. He was a pleasure to work with as a councillor, always able to give guidance and advice when necessary, and worked tirelessly for his community and the city. Barry enjoyed his life in education and politics. His retirement was filled with globe-trotting adventures. He was a good family man, as his wife, children, grandchildren and great-grandchildren will attest. There will be many who will miss him, this gentleman of politics and life. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Webb, for that very warm tribute to a very, very nice gentleman who indeed I had the pleasure of meeting. Right. Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I add my warm thoughts for ex-Councillor Barry Chadwick? I just want to say a few words about Annie Hall. I got to know Annie Hall when she was the High Sheriff of Derbyshire a couple of years ago as the Police and Crime Commissioner. And I have to say that Annie Hall was a great ambassador for policing, for the criminal justice system, and in her symbolic role of High Sheriff of Derbyshire. She was a friend to the Derbyshire Constabulary, and she was a friend to causes that were linked with the policing family and criminal justice. In her own right, she was a very successful businesswoman, and she has had many different businesses, and she's well known to the business community in Derby and Derbyshire, in which area she showed great leadership. More than that, she was a family person. Her husband, Michael Hall, who I've known over many years, who was a prominent member of the Derby University, and in his own right, a very influential figure in the social, economic and political life of Derbyshire. And I want to add my condolences to her sad and too early tragic death due to the floods. But I think Annie Hall will be remembered, particularly by the church community as well, because she was the chair of Derby Cathedral Council for a number of years. And I know there's a book of condolences at the cathedral for people to share their thoughts about Annie's life. So she was a colourful, bright, cheerful and friendly person, but with a steely determination to succeed not only as a businesswoman, but in her ambassadorial role as the High Sheriff of Derbyshire. She will be missed.
Thank you, Councillor Dinser. I would agree with all you said. I found Annie a warm and had a wonderful personality. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too knew Annie Hall very well, particularly her husband, Michael Hall. He was, for many years, chairman of Foundation Derbyshire, on which I served for 20 years. And between them, they did tremendous things for charities all over the county. And I send my condolences to Michael, who must be, it's unthinkable what he must be going through at the moment. But Barry Chadwick, who was deputy leader of our group for many years, had a number of passions. I think most councillors have passions, but two in particular I would like to mention because they're just quick stories about them. One was children and young people, as you'd expect from a primary school head. And when he was mayor, his theme was the rising generation. And the other was public transport. I can remember him saying in this chamber that the most beautiful sight in the city of Derby was to see a double-decker bus pull onto the marketplace. He meant a corporation bus, and he was very much opposed to the 1986 Transport Act, but because of politics, he had to implement it, and even actually packing a committee for the day. His strength of feeling about public transport affected the mayor's car. In the late 70s, we had a Conservative-controlled council by one vote, one member. So things were on a knife edge. And we'd done quite a lot of work on trying to reintroduce civic pride into the city. And a number of businesses had decided that the mayor of Derby should be driven around in a Rolls-Royce car. Even Rolls-Royce chipped in, quite a lot of businesses chipped in. It didn't cost the public purse a penny. And little did Barry know, when he stood on his feet just over there, that the Rolls-Royce was already in the garage under this building at the time. But he stood up, and remember we'd got a majority of one, and said, whatever the political consequences, I cannot in all conscience allow the mayor of Derby to be seen in a Rolls-Royce car. There were gasps, as you can imagine, from our group at the time, and he very soon ceased to be deputy leader of our group. But very shamefacedly, we had to take that car back to the suppliers, and for a number of years after that, the mayor went around in a clapped-out Ford Zodiac. The other mention was of children and young people. And I remember chairing a planning committee when we all know the Sikh temple, the Gurudev temple in Stanhope Street, which has a piece of grass beside it. Well, there was a planning application that came up to put a car park there. An opinion was quite divided on whether it needed a car park or whether the grass should stay. And so we had a site visit. And I don't know if it was arranged by certain people of local ward members or what, but there were children playing all over that grass. And Barry came back and he said, you're not having a car park. And you only need to go and see it now. It's covered in grass. He had that sort of power, and probably for good. I actually supported a car park, but he insisted, no, those children were too important, and he was absolutely right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Likewise, Councillor Wood, a lovely tribute to Barry. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, after those wonderful tributes, we hope that the rest of the meeting will be conducted in the same way. We go to item 5. Oh, wait a minute. I apologise. All the excitement of what I've heard, we have a minute's silence before we proceed. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do apologise to the opposition spokesman for the late submission to you of the statement. I was just checking things with FERPERDA and making some amendments. You understand it wasn't any other reason than that. We will all be aware that on November the 8th, River Derwent levels rose to a record height of 3.3 metres, far above the 2.4 metres we had expected and higher than even the year 2000 level, making it a 1 in 20 years event. The OCOR package, Our River, Package 1 standalone defences work is due to be signed off in March 2020. However, the near completion of this phase of work allowed the closure of floodgates at Haslam's Lane and Darley Fields for the first time. This was the first major test of Phase 1 of the city's £95 million flood defence and regeneration scheme, designed to protect against a 100 years event. The gates, walls and earthworks did their job, and stopped many hundreds of people's houses from being, homes and businesses being swamped by river water and all the pain that would go with that. Around 1,140 properties in total were saved from flooding in the Chester Green and Darley area. I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of all councillors to thank the council and emergency services teams for their hard work over many hours throughout the period of high river levels and subsequent flooding. A team of structural engineers, drainage experts, communications officers, tactical and highways network advisors were scrambled with the express aim of keeping Derby safe, to save life, property and businesses. A command centre was set up at the council's Stores Road depot, and just some of the many challenges the team faced were to keep the bus station open as long as possible to make sure people left the city and to monitor flooding around Exeter House, where the ground floor level was evacuated. There was also a liaison with Rolls-Royce about what to do in the event of flooding at the company's site in Rainsway, and to deal with and mitigate against flooding on our transport network. The team really did go the extra mile for the city, and they should be very proud of their efforts, resilience and performance, and I wanted to have that formally recognised this evening. An extensive review of the actions taken and challenges faced is still ongoing to ensure that the Council can further improve its future planning. The early use of the new floodgates and defences also gave us a valuable insight in regard to what they are capable of protecting against, and I'm glad to report that they worked incredibly well with significant capacity to spare. Councillors will no doubt be reassured to hear that plans were in place to evacuate the city centre if the river levels had shown signs of rising further, but the council were never close to making that call. Structural engineers have also checked our bridges and structures and all survived the fast-flowing water. To conclude, I feel it would be useful to offer a general where we are cost overview for councillors. It's a £95 million scheme, or the total forecast of the cost of the project is £95 million. And the significant funding elements to deliver OCOR thus far have been £17 million of flood defence grant in aid funding, £19 million of growth funding, £12 million of grant funding, and in regard to the ongoing Munio works that you will all have seen progress close to the Council House and River Garden since January this year, Phase 1 is £2 million from the European Regional Development Fund, Phase 2 £1.5 million from the same fund, and Phase 2A is £1 million from the same fund again, that is currently in final legal and appraisal stage before Derby City Council can formally receive it. I can confirm that the ERDF Munio funding is not at risk should the UK leave the European Union. All ERDF 2014 to 2020 programmes are subject to government guarantee. However, whilst the OCOR project is moving forward with purpose, we accept the challenge of around £42 million we still need to secure to deliver the remaining flood defence and related regeneration priorities. These will be announced, promoted and consulted upon in due course. I'm sure all councillors across this chamber who continue to show cross-party support for OCOR will agree with me that recent events demonstrate just how important this project has proven to be for Derby. Without OCOR, I would be making a very different statement to this council this evening. Could I ask that council's appreciation and thanks for officers' efforts in regard to both their work over the last 9 years on this project and more recently in dealing with the events of November the 8th are formally minuted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Would the Labour Group like to comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Our group would also like to put on record our appreciation for the extraordinary efforts that our officers of this council demonstrated during this period. It's very reassuring to us all as members, but also for the communities that we represent, the business community and those that visit Derby, to know that we have such dedicated people, our greatest asset, looking after us all. The leadership from the command centre, the workers and the officers that we had at various sites, and the very national confident television appearance are all a great credit to our city. We must also, though, remember, whilst individuals and teams are working extended hours to protect us, they also have loved ones anxiously waiting for them at home. So I think we should extend our thanks to the families of all those involved.
Councillor Skelton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I too would like to thank all the staff involved. I believe Derby Home staff as well were also involved, and obviously our own Street Pride and other technical teams, as well as obviously Fire and Rescue Service as well. Just probably I think about 10 days ago I decided to go and have a tour, as it were, of the flood defences. So I started up about in Darley Abbey and worked my way down into the city centre, and it is truly quite an engineering feature in the landscape along the river, but you can certainly see, particularly by Chester Green, where the flood water had come over into a controlled area and was now receding, but it had certainly saved many houses. I certainly have friends who live in Chester Green who were mightily relieved that they escaped this time. So I think it's a great deal of thanks to everybody who's been involved in the planning, the design of the project and the execution of it, and also all our staff who were so active when the flood warnings were active. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Anybody would like to comment from the Brexit Party?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think Councillor Holmes made a very comprehensive report of what happened during the flooding, and on our behalf I'd like to thank all those people that are involved in defending the city from great flooding. A very important issue, the OCOR scheme. I did notice through the report that Councillor Holmes mentioned that it only went up to phase 2A. I would like to remind the Council that there are 3 phases to OCOR, and I do hope that phase 3 hasn't been lost, because that does affect our wards as well, and I want to make sure that that is still on course. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, obviously I'd like, as the Mayor, to say well done. I think we should show our appreciation in the usual way to those people that did such a fantastic job. Thank you. We go to item 6 on the agenda. Question from members of the public. Can we have our officer to... we have 6 in total. They're all listed there. And in addition, 4 listed on the agenda front sheet. 2 questions received prior to the deadline, which also have been included in the printed booklet. We will hear a summary of each question from the officer, and the relevant councillor will respond. Each question will then be questioner will ask to, if they wish to make a supplementary question. So can we start on those, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The first question is from Dorothy Skrytek, but I don't believe she's currently here. So with your permission, I'll move straight to question B. Question B is from David Thompson, who would like to ask Councillor Webb, on what grounds can the Council alter the use of the Aspect building in light of representations received as part of an Equality Action Plan, and why has the Council not taken note of its own legal advice in relation to the risk of judicial review?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr Thompson. The Equalities Impact Assessment being referred to was not specifically about the future use of the building in question. Rather, it was assessing the potential negative impacts on individuals currently using a range of council care services that were subject to significant change and re-provision. One of the 19 recommended mitigation actions included Council to consider any proposals around community asset transfer that may come forward for aspect or other facilities as appropriate. Discussions have taken place with a number of interested parties about the future of the building formerly known as Aspect and any proposals considered. However, the Council is under no obligation to enter into any commercial negotiations with any party about its assets. An alternative use for the building is required as a business priority for the Council, and this is now being taken forward. This relates to special educational needs, SEND, and options for additional capacity for primary special school places. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr Thompson, have you got a supplementary question to Mr Councillor Webb?
I believe the Council is making a very grave mistake, and I will make a very passionate plea on behalf of autistic people. You are misinterpreting, you'll get the question in a minute, you are misinterpreting the law of the land. You are bound under the Autism Act to take what services you are going to provide for autistic people. Both Derby City Council and Derbyshire and the local education, local NHS Trust are at fault here. The building, which is Aspect, was specifically adapted in order to enable that autistic people will be able to cope with their environment. This is the major
Mr Thompson,
that autistic people
Mr Thompson, I've given you quite a bit. Mr Thompson, can you come to your question, please? Mr Thompson, Mr Thompson, Mr Thompson, Mr Thompson,
the Localisation Act,
Mr Thompson,
you are bound
switch his microphone up, please.
to respect
to be reasonable.
an expression of interest
I'm sorry,
and to talk. You have not done that.
Mr Thompson, would you like to put the question, please?
The question is, why?
Mr. Mayor, I am not aware that there is any law being broken. The Council have a priority for children with special educational needs, and that does include autism. This building will be used for special educational needs as part of a council priority.
Right, we go to the question from Mr Bacon.
Simon Bacon would like to ask Councillor Smale, prior to the return of the blue bin scheme in all areas, how many properties were without a blue bin service and how many have now signed up?
Good evening, Mr Bacon. Prior to the inner city blue bin scheme, there were 6,133 properties in these areas without a curbside recycling service. As of the 19th of November 2019, 303 properties have registered for a blue bin collection.
Mr Bacon, have you got a supplementary question, please?
Good evening, Mr Mayor. Yes, I have. Thank you. Thank you for your reply, Councillor Smale. An environmental information request I've previously made said that there were 9,000 homes without the blue bin service, and the Derby Telegraph and Council Cabinet document said that that was 11,000 homes. How has this figure mysteriously shrunk to 6,133, which sounds very precise and far lower than expected? Why are they not included in the return scheme? Thank you.
Okay, Mr Bacon, yeah, I think you've got a fair point with regard to the figures there. So what I'll do is I'll take those figures back, investigate, and I'll report back to you via email, if that's all right. Thank you.
Ms Goss, have you got your question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Bernadette Gross would like to ask Councillor Ralston, why is it difficult to access welfare rights advice via the telephone?
Thank you, and good evening, Mrs Gross. We are very sorry, and I mean very sorry, that Mrs Gross was unable to access the Welfare Rights Advice Service in this instance. The Welfare Rights Advice team experienced a high demand for its services from the public, and last year the team dealt with 9,994 enquiries. Demand for welfare rights advice has increased since the rollout of Department of Work and Pensions Universal Credit, and the team continued to support Derby residents who are experiencing difficulties as a result of this change. The team aims to triage all enquiries within 48 hours. At its initial call, we assess the customer's inquiry or issue and identify the most appropriate support and advice to offer to customers. On this particular occasion, we were having issues with the answering phone service. This would normally allow the customer to leave a message, and they would also hear a message that prompted them to go to the website or email us directly. This has now been resolved, and we would like to apologise for any difficulties or inconvenience this caused. In addition, Derby Homes has recognised the increase in demands for access to the Welfare Rights Service and has invested resources to increase the triage function and enhance responses to incoming enquiries.
Ms Grass, have you got a supplementary question, please?
Thank you to Councillor Ralston for your reply. I do have a supplementary question. First of all, I'd like to say that my mum grew up in Glasgow in the 1920s, and she knew what it was to go hungry, relying on the Band of Hope for a jug of soup. Are all councillors in this chamber aware that people leave this building angry, desperate, and often hungry, wondering how they are going to feed themselves and their families? In the light of this, would the Council reconsider releasing some of its reserves to alleviate the terrible suffering that Universal Credit is bringing upon our city?
Thank you, Mrs Gross. In terms of the information that we're talking about here, absolutely, we're not going to shy away from the pressures that we have as a city. I'm working very closely with officers at the moment to look at the possibility of creating a residents' financial resilience board to try and encourage other outside, external and internal groups to get together and look how we can strengthen our groups internally and externally. It's something that I've been working on. We've got an upcoming meeting actually on the 9th of December. And my hope with that is that we can then start to identify where the challenges are, where the gaps in these services are, and where we perhaps have over-provision, that we can work together to try and make sure that we've got the right coverage for the city going forward. And with that, I think we can start to work together, and when we can really truly identify what we can do to help, we will do as much as we possibly can within the remit that we have within this council.
Councillor Baker, the second question, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We'll move to question F. Simon Bacon would like to ask Councillor Smale, how many tonnes of garden and food waste have been collected in 2019-20 compared to the previous financial year?
Thank you very much, Mr Bacon. For the period from the 1st of the 4th, 2019 to the 31st of the 10th, 2019, we have collected 10,264 tonnes from the curbside. For the period from the 1st of the 4th, 2018 to the 31st of the 10th, 2018, we collected 3,786 tonnes from the curbside. For the whole financial year of 2018-19, we collected 4,028 tonnes from the curbside. As you may remember, we did not collect for the winter months, then we started again this year in April. Thank you.
Councillor, Mr Bacon, have you got a supplementary question to Councillor Smale?
I have, Mr Mayor, thank you. This term councillor is starting to stick, isn't it? Thank you for your reply, Councillor Smale. Has the council done any research into how much of that collected waste is food waste from a tonnage point of view? And if so, can you please provide this research? Oh, sorry.
Phone on. Councillor Bacon, you've left your microphone on. I'm sure there would have been some research into this. The fact that we would have made some provision with the fact that we were using the brown bin service during the winter months. So again, I'll go back to my waste officers and we'll get some of that research, and then I'll come back to you again. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Hazelgrave would like to ask Councillor Poulter what progress has been made in the adoption and implementation of the Charter Against Modern Slavery.
Thank you, Mr. Hazelgrave. Councillor Hazelgrave. First thing to say is that Derby City Council is totally committed as a member of the Derby and Derbyshire Modern Slavery Partnership. We're committed to improving practices and to combat modern slavery. We recognise our responsibilities to work with partners and to notify the Secretary of State of any suspected victims under Section 52 of the Modern Slavery Act 2015. We've engaged, as you'll know, with other partners in some very successful operations in relation to abuse of modern slavery, with the police and other partners and other authorities, and we will continue to do so. You'll see there's a very detailed response, but in paraphrasing that, I have to say we have made considerable progress on commitments adopted under our charter. Training has been given and rolled out across to officers. Our procurement team has been on a course under ethical procurement and supply, and in-house training is being developed and rolled out in January. The council are, any council contractors are required to comply with the terms of the Modern Slavery Act, its terms and conditions which have been updated. Under public contract regulations, abnormally low tenders will be challenged to identify potential victims. Our suppliers will be encouraged to tell workers that they are free to join a union and therefore benefit from the associated safeguards against unfair treatment. The Council's whistleblower policy has been updated and highlighted in relation to modern slavery issues. Any tendered contractors will be required to adopt a whistleblowing policy, a similar one. Any contractors' spending will be reviewed on a regular basis to identify any modern slavery issues. Any concerns that we discover will be referred to the National Crime Agency. We are complying with the requirement to issue an annual statement on the implementation of our policy, and our statement for 2019 has been prepared and will be posted on the Council's website.
Councillor Hazelgrave, have you got a supplementary question to Councillor Poulter?
Thank you, Councillor Poulter. Just because the public won't have necessarily access to all this, I'm heartened and reassured, as I hope all other councillors are, that steps are being taken to flesh out and fully comply with this Charter Against Modern Slavery. We work with a lot of professionals here as officers in the council, and I would like you to pass on, and this is my question, would you pass on to officers our thanks as a collective group of councillors for the work they've done to get themselves up to speed and get themselves proactive in stamping out and seeking out modern slavery in the city of Derby? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I certainly will pass on that message to the officers, and they are absolutely dedicated to getting this policy right to be able to stamp out this, this deplorable trade in our city. Thank you.
Alex, Councillor Pegg's question to Councillor Barker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Paul Pegg would like to ask Councillor Barker, what is the cost of proposed work in relation to the Marketplace fountain?
Thank you, Councillor Pegg, Paul Pegg, for the question. It's a quite short answer in regard to that. Just one point before we go into that. You made a big. You say we made a big shout about turning the fountain back on 6 months ago. Yes, we did. We also made a big shout about the deep cleans and also putting the roundabout fountains on as well. And they have been a total success throughout the city. So first and foremost, I'll give myself a pat on the back for that. The second paragraph you relate to the chamber. I did tell the chamber that we moved the control panels to the council house. That's very true. What probably wasn't clear was the controls for the fountains merely monitored the water quality that was going through them, and so therefore it gave an alarm in the council house as and when the water quality deteriorated to the extent where it could be a danger, and so therefore the council house had the opportunity to switch them off so that a clean could take place. That movement has been carried out, and for what your question is asking, it was to the tune of £16,000. You ask when the fountain is going back on again. Of course, it's shut down for the winter now. Potentially, the fountain goes back on again in the spring when there's no danger of frosts. But we already know that the tank that holds the water needs a deep clean because of contaminants in the tank. That will cost £1,865 at today's rate. And from there on in, it is envisaged that the potential for keeping the water to a safe level and a safe quality will cost somewhere in the region of £900 a month for chemicals.
Councillor Pegg, have you got a supplementary question to ask Councillor Barker?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Alex, Councillor Peatfield's question to Councillor Matthew Holmes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Peatfield would like to ask Councillor Matthew Holmes, what progress has been made in recruiting a climate emergency officer?
Thank you for the question. The post of Climate Change Coordinator was offered and verbally accepted last week. The successful candidate should be starting with us before Christmas, subject to the standard pre-employment checks. Thank you.
Councillor Peatfield, have you got a supplementary question to ask Councillor Matthew Holmes, please?
I do, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Given that only a third of an officer is currently working on the council climate change and the new coordinator will have no powers as such, what assurances can you give us that you will accept and apply the recommendations of the climate change coordinator?
Thank you, Councillor Peatfield. I'm confident you're going to see significant progress in regard to this agenda and commitment by the council in the coming months.
And it's going to have Councillor Shanker's question to Councillor Matthew Holmes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Shanker would like to ask Councillor Matthew Holmes, please could the Cabinet Member provide an update on the Assembly Rooms refurbishment in terms of costs, timescales and scope?
Thank you, Councillor Shanker. The project is on budget with no change to scope. Scale.
Councillor Shanker, have you got a supplementary question, please?
I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Holmes. As you previously have stated, the project is going well at full council, and then within days the project slipped by a whole year. What reassurances can you give this won't happen again, both in terms of timescale and cost?
Thank you, Councillor Shanker. I refer you to my previous answer.
Alex, can I have Councillor Ashburn's question to Councillor Smale, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Ashburn would like to ask Councillor Smale, how has the brown bin service changed since the new scheme was introduced in terms of tonnage of compostable waste, number of bins collected per month, number of households and quantity of waste to landfill?
Thank you very much, Councillor Ashburn. As you can see, there's a table describing from last year's monthly figures to this year's monthly figures. We now know the number of customers who have signed up to the scheme. We do not know how many bins are being collected each week, as you may know that not every customer will put their bin out every fortnight. Some may only choose to do it once a month. We currently have 56,162 households who have signed up for the brown bin scheme. At the end of 2018, we had 13,652 households who had signed up for the charged scheme. Our current forecasting is showing a 7,878 tonnes reduction. This is roughly 368 tonnes more in diversions from black bin tonnages. We generally see a 1 or 2% increase in growth in disposal, normally in the result of new properties in the city, so the actual diversion from black to brown could have been much higher, but this has been reduced by this growth. Thank you.
Councillor Ashburn, have you got a supplementary question to Councillor Smale, please?
Brief one, thank you. This question has overlapped with several questions from the public. We obviously have similar concerns, and congratulations on the figures showing a significant increase in compostable material and a decrease in black bin or landfill waste. Thank you.
Alex, I've got two people that want to ask a question to Councillor Smale, so I'll take Councillor Peatfield first, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Both Councillor Peatfield and Carr would like to ask Councillor Smale, in light of recent flooding, how can a reduction in staff numbers in the land drainage team be justified?
Thank you very much, Councillor Peatfield and Councillor Carr, for your questions. The proposed changes in this team are in a combination with the moving the land and drainage and flood defence team from Street Pride over to the engineering design team. This is to promote closer working across the Council's engineering disciplines and delivery efficiencies. This will provide greater resilience across engineering and deliver savings that contribute to a balanced budget for 2020-2021. However, since the recent flooding events, a proposal to protect 2 of the 3 at-risk posts have been developed by officers. This is only sustainable for 2 years, but will give time for the team and their processes to be reviewed for potential efficiencies. The proposal is an indirect result of the additional £9.2 million that has been identified for highways infrastructure works in 2021 and 21-22. Thank you.
Councillor Peatfield, have you got a supplementary question to Councillor Smale, please?
I do, Mr Mayor. Delivering savings and efficiencies during a time of flood are not exactly reassuring. What happens after the 2 years, Councillor Smale, or do you expect the climate emergency to have been resolved by then?
Thank you very much, Councillor Peatfield. This proposal has been developed because what we're trying to do is create a resilient team in the whole engineering design team. This flood defence drainage or land drainage and flood defence team has been a standalone item which has been absorbing high amounts of money where it could be working more resilient with our fellow engineers. Not only this, but also we are subcontracting our work out. Bringing them closer to our fellow engineers will mean we'll be able to create an in-house team. And as a Labour group, I would sure you would support us in creating an in-house team which will be able to deal with issues such as land, flood, defence and drainage. Thank you.
Councillor Carr, have you got a supplementary question to Councillor Smale?
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you. It's really a comment. It would seem that the recent floods plus the questions from Councillor Peatfield and I have had the desired effect, and the cuts in the team have been put back for 2 years. I agree with Councillor Peatfield. I'm not convinced that we won't still need them in 2 years. The big issue for land drainage people is what's in the heads of the team, the members that you're going to cut, and I don't believe all that knowledge will be transmitted over in 2 years. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Alex, can we have Councillor Paul Pegg's question to Councillor Potter, please? I apologise. Councillor Paul Pegg's question to Councillor Potter, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand Councillor Potter isn't here this evening, so I believe Councillor Poulter will be responding on behalf... Councillor Holmes will be responding on behalf of Councillor Potter. Councillor Pegg would like to ask how many meetings of the Personnel Committee have been rescheduled this municipal year?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Pegg. There have been 4 meeting changes for the Personnel Committee in the current municipal year. This has been for a variety of reasons, including the availability of the Chair, achieving quorum due to council availability, due to the previous meetings being postponed to avoid inquorum. The subsequent meeting was also deferred at the recommendation of officers to ensure the committee had new information to consider, and also there are some policies which require approval earlier than the next scheduled meeting, and therefore at the request of officers the meeting has been brought forward.
Councillor Paul Pegg, have you got a supplementary question for Councillor Matthew Holmes, please?
I do on this occasion, Mr. Mayor. This has had a knock-on effect. We've had, should have been 4 meetings, and they've all been either adjourned or the dates have been changed right from the beginning of the year. And we were told at the AGM that no meetings were going to be altered accordingly. But since the first meeting, when the chair wasn't available, we've had this knock-on effect. Surely the chair should have, the vice chair should have taken control of it. But what assurances do we have that no more of these meetings are going to be cancelled?
Thank you, Councillor Pegg. I can't give you that assurance for the reasons that I've listed in the answer on behalf of Councillor Potter. There are very many legitimate reasons why a meeting may have to be altered or changed or shifted around, brought forward or pushed back. And ultimately, it's the Chair's prerogative to do that, and also taking advice from officers. If that's what they are asking to do, then obviously we take their professional advice.
Alex, can I have Councillor Kerr's question to Councillor Matthew Holmes, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Kerr would like to ask Councillor Matthew Holmes, how do you expect the timescale for agreeing a plan to tackle the climate emergency to be achieved?
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. We've recently recruited a dedicated post to coordinate our work in this area, and the person should be starting with us very soon, as I've already said, subject to the necessary pre-employment checks. The recruitment process is key, actually, to moving forward with purpose and a plan. I'm sure that you'll agree that it's important to ensure we take some time to build a shared understanding of this complex area and the city's current position to inform that plan. However, I would stress that we're continuing our work to keep up the momentum through various projects and programmes, including the recently launched Decarbonise initiative, which provides environmental support and grants to local businesses to reduce their carbon footprint through the city and wider county. Thank you.
Councillor Kerr, have you got a supplementary question to Councillor Matthew Holmes, please?
Thank you for the update. In summary, we won't achieve the plan by the end of the year. So when do you think is a reasonable target date for completing that?
Councillor Kerr, at risk of repeating myself, I believe you'll see significant progress now that we've moving forward with purpose with our officer, and I think you'll see that over the next few months. I can't give you a date at this time.
Alex, can we have Councillor Skelton's question to Councillor Smale, please?
Councillor Skelton would like to ask Councillor Smale, why have highways improvements in the area of Stenson Road not been completed?
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Skelton. The proposed changes to the roundabout at Stenson Road and the Inner Ring Road were part of the highways improvements negotiated as an element of the residential development in South Derbyshire. The designs were retested over time, however, and we were shown to have marginal benefit without additional works being carried out to improve the Inner Ring Road. Further study over the past few years has suggested that a wider scheme to improve the Inner Ring Road is required. This would be a significant scheme, and the Council has made submission to Government to try and access major road scheme funding. In the meantime, the Council has negotiated with the developers to secure a financial contribution, which will be part of a funding package for a further wider scheme with additional benefits. The signalisation of Village Street has also been assessed, and again, without the changes to the Inner Ring Road and the roundabout, the signals would increase congestion in the area during peak traffic times. The whole package of schemes needs to be considered as part of a wider, more significant redesign. The Council will continue to seek funding opportunities for the larger and more effective scheme to be delivered. Thank you.
Councillor Skelton, have you got a supplementary question for Councillor Smale, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I presume, just first, when you're saying inner ring road, you actually mean outer ring road. The crossroads, to those of us who live nearby, is very well known as an area of regular collisions, and it really does need dealing with. So you say the council will continue to seek funding opportunities, but what sort of timescales are you expecting for this?
Thank you, Councillor Skelton. I think what we could do is, if it would be all right with me, to take it offline with you, make a site visit with traffic and highways officers, and then we'll look towards a more quicker solution, and then to put some confidence back in you and your residents. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm sorry about Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Kerr would like to ask Councillor Webb, how does advertising full English breakfasts in the Council House help improve health, reduce obesity and cut climate change?
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. We have reintroduced full English breakfast on a Friday to widen the service we are offering, and customers like the offering. We are advertising it as a change that we have put in place, letting people know that it is in place. All ingredients are good quality products. Meat, corn products and hash browns are oven cooked rather than fried. Eggs are fried to order. Limited fat. But poached eggs are available upon request. We offer toast instead of fried bread. As such, you can have a hearty but healthy breakfast. Customers can choose which items they purchase. Every day we offer porridge, yogurts, fruit, Danish pastries, so there is a good choice for people who have different tastes and maybe following different eating habits and lifestyles. We also offer breakfast baps each day.
Councillor Webb, that's made me feel very hungry. Councillor Kerr, have you got a supplementary question, please?
I have, Mr Mayor, and while this has obviously caused a little light relief, it actually comes down to the very basic question about how what we do, everything we do, can affect our climate change and our carbon footprint, and we can influence what people are doing. So I'm pleased that there are healthier options, but these don't appear to be being advertised. Have we given the restaurant operator carte blanche on what it's advertised on the screens in whatever arrangement it has for advertising, whether as part of its contract, separate paid arrangement or for free? Could we influence them to be actually advertising healthy things that are low carbon footprint rather than things that aren't?
Councillor Kerr, can I invite you to breakfast or lunch to check what the offer is? I regularly use the service and the offer is wide and varied, and I'm sure that we could find something to suit your palate. Whether we can influence climate change, I do not know.
I wonder if I can follow that one. Councillor Alex, can you ask Councillor Matthew Holmes' question, Councillor Clare's question, please? Goodness me.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Kerr would like to ask Councillor Matthew Holmes, when is consultation on Part 2 of the local plan expected to start?
I envisage that consultation on a draft of LP2 plan will take place early summer next year.
Councillor Kerr, have we got a supplementary question, please? Councillor Matthew Holmes.
I have, please, thank you. Is this further delay to give time to ensure that it can be as effective as possible in moving Derby on its journey to being a zero-carbon city?
Maybe we can discuss this over full English. Either a full English or a vegan, vegetarian, carbon neutral alternative next Friday, I don't know. But anyway, in all seriousness, look, I make no apology in regard to taking time to get this right. It's a crucial, wide-ranging and absolutely significant piece of work for this city, as you well know. So it will take time to do, and it has taken time to do, but we have to get this right. Progress has been made. We are making significant progress, and we're nearly there, but just be patient, please. Thank you.
Well, I'll try and compose myself now and go on to the next item on the agenda, item 9. Next item on the agenda are minute extracts from Council Cabinet meetings held on the 13th of November 2019. Resolutions contained in those extracts require approval by the Council. The matter under consideration is Extract 97/19 and were dealt with under the confidential item at the end of the agenda. Councillor Bolt, I invite you to move the minutes for this approval, please.
So moved, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
I'm just wondering how we can approve these minutes before we've had a possible debate in the confidential part of the meeting, because we may, at that part of the meeting, not wish to approve them. So can we approve only the ones that are not subject to the confidential element?
Yes. I'm told by the monitoring officer, yes. Okay. Anybody else would like to speak? Please show. Against? Okay, thank you very much. Item 10 on the agenda. These are proposed amendments to the Council's Constitution. As a Cabinet Member with responsibility for governments, Councillor Barker, will you move the recommendations, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, certainly. Obviously, the paper refers to the regulations allowing fixed penalty notice to be issued by our new colleagues that are joining us soon for offences under the Environmental Protection Act. There are two recommendations. One is to grant the authority to the Director of Public Protection and Street Pride to authorise the proper officers, and the second one is to authorise the monitoring officer to make appropriate amendments to the scheme of delegation. I move, Mr. Mayor. That's printed.
Have we got a seconder, please? Thank you. Any speakers?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say that I think the throwing stuff from vehicles, which I see a lot of where I live down Alfreton Road, is an absolute abomination, and I thoroughly approve of this, and the sooner we start implementing it, the better. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other speakers? Can we move to a vote, please? All in favour, please show. Thank you. Any against? Thank you. Agenda. The next item is in relation to the Council Training Day 2020 and propose that this is held on Wednesday, the 3rd of June next year. Councillor Barker, please, yes. Will you move the recommendations?
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Mayor. This is an early doors notification of the date for the Council Training Day next year. I would urge all councillors to attend on that day. It does help in relation to talk and chalk training as opposed to the electronic training that we were subjected to previously. I would also ask all leaders of the respective parties to ensure that their candidates for the forthcoming election in May of next year also are aware of the date, so that should they be elected, they similarly can attend on this particular day. There are 3 recommendations. One is to actually set the date. 2, to agree the, as we've just said, the political routes will widely circulate it to candidates. And thirdly, that the modular training programme, which is attached to Appendix 1, can be subjected to change given the agreement of the leaders and also the council steering group. And so I move as the paper is printed, Mr. Mayor.
The seconder, please. Right, Councillor Hassel. Thank you. Any speakers, please? Can we, sorry? Yes, Councillor Graves.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to say thank you for the early notice, but I cannot make that date, so would appreciate some alternate dates, please.
Can we move to a vote? All in favour, please show. Thank you. Any against? Thank you. Item 12 on the agenda, we now have a summary report detailing any non-executive decisions made by the Chief Executive since the last meeting of the Council. I understand one decision has been made since our last meeting in relation to the Director of Public Health, Councillor Poulter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As printed in the report, the Chief Executive found it necessary to appoint a new temporary Director of Public Health, as it's a statutory requirement to hold. I think we should note the report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to move to the late item that you've all had circulated to you. This relates to the announcement that Councillor Willoughby will now be serving as a Liberal Democrat councillor. I'd ask Councillor Barker to move the report and for councillors to vote on the recommendation. Councillor Barker.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Mayor, for this. There's only one recommendation on the paper. Obviously, with Councillor Willoughby moving to the Liberal Democrats, it does alter the balance in relation to Widdicombe on the committees on which we all serve. And so, therefore, the paper is self-explanatory in what is proposed at 4.1. And I ask that the Council approve recommendation 2.1 to amend the appointments as per 4.1 on the report, and that nominations be received by the Monitoring Officer accordingly, that having been passed. Thank you.
A seconder, please. Councillor Hassel. Anybody would like to speak? Nobody? Good. Right. We'll all go to a vote then. All in favour, please show. Any? Thank you. Any against? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is fairly self-evident, and I think most people are aware that the Highways England is going to be spending a significant amount of money, almost for certain now, on improving the A38 as it goes past Derby. It may be fine when it's completed, but it could be fairly painful on the route to achieve that. And therefore, this is calling on Highways England to actually help us, help them, help the travelling public to make this as painless a process as possible. So the 4 things we're asking for is to make sure that we are using their expertise in travel modelling and travelling to make sure that we can do with their cooperation to make as much use of the wider network to enable flows of traffic to continue, together with having to make any changes to signal timings or minor changes in other ways to our network to enable that to happen and reduce the queues as far as possible. We also know that this is an opportunity when we could be encouraging people to travel in the private car less, and we need to be encouraging people to do that because we already have times when that part of our network is fully congested, and we need to get people to move out of their private cars and make use of walking, cycling and public transport, car sharing and the like. And we need to be very nice if they put some help into achieving that. We also know that there will be people coming forward complaining to us about what's going on, and they would like to have some way of communicating their frustrations, and we as councillors representing those sorts of areas are going to want to have ways, good communication routes to be able to point out potentially suggestions or find out what's going on, and therefore to have some regular liaison meetings would be really helpful as well. So if we put everything right, we can make this a good news story. If we don't get it right, we may well find that we have concerns and complaints coming back to us and reputational issues that we will be having to deal with. So this is trying to be proactive and working as closely as we can with another public sector body to ensure that we have something that works for everybody. I hope you'll support it.
Councillor Carr, I understand you're seconding this item. Do you wish to speak now or reserve the right?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll speak later if I may. Thank you.
Right. Any other speakers would like to speak on this motion? Right, Councillor Paul Pegg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I find it rather strange that this motion has actually come. It's a good motion, don't get me wrong, but I can assure you, councillors in Mackworth have been working with the Highways Agency to resolve a lot of these issues for the last 3 or 4 years. In fact, I think, and I'm sure Councillor Poulter will confirm this, there was a meeting in this very chamber probably 12 months ago with all the transport agencies, Highways Agency and everybody else to discuss these very issues. I think we've moved on fantastically with Highways England. They are keeping us informed. I had a meeting only last week with them over certain issues on in and around Mackworth. And I can assure you Councillor Froggatt and Councillor Whitby, former Councillor Whitby, sorry, were very proactive in it. And they are promising us everything that is in this paper. And I'm sure Councillor Poulter will agree to that because we have been so proactive with them. In fact, we even got a couple of the routes changed that were going to really affect Mackworth in such a bad way. Thank you.
Councillor Matthew Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have an amendment, if that can be distributed, please.
Mr. Mayor, is it possible we could have the amendment? Can we have a second vote on it, Mr Mayor?
Councillor Holmes, would you like to?
Come on now, it's Purder. Don't open the Brexit door. Look, this isn't an amendment to negate. It isn't an amendment to overcomplicate. It purely is an amendment to add value, to add some more detail that I, as the lead cabinet member, are privy to, and I think that actually it tidies things up, it adds clarity, and has some specific detail there that I think would be helpful for the motion if amended. So I totally agree. Obviously, a project of this size, which is not going to be led by the council, it's going to be obviously managed by Highways England. 3 junctions at the same time. It is going to be painful for the city. We cannot say anything other than that. And the council's job, with the help of the Highways England, is to mitigate the impacts. And this is part of that process. If you look at the paragraph changes, and I've tried not to reword it too much to upset you in any way, Councillor Kerr and Carr, and I hope you accept that this is just to tidy up and add detail that, for example, November, December 2020 is new information. Continue to the end of the March, it's new information, which actually gives you that clarity that wasn't there before, and it was no fault of your own. It will transform this city when completed, but we do need to have liaison through our partners, whether they be councillors, residents, businesses or stakeholders, and that's why I've changed the bullet points there, if you like. Council therefore asks Highways England to continue liaise with the council too. Example, the 4th one, work collectively with clear lines of communication to engage liaise with the councillors, residents, businesses and stakeholders. And that means everything, and Councillor Pegg is absolutely right. That process already started and will continue and it will accelerate. And that can involve everybody, and it's our job together to work out how best to do that. And, you know, we want to work with everyone within this chamber and the communities within all the wards that were going to be affected. When I say the wards affected, actually, this is going to impact the whole city for a long period of time. Let's make no mistake about that. Residents and businesses are not going to be happy. It's as simple as that. However, we need to work with them as best we can to promote the benefits when this work is completed, and they will be absolutely significant benefits. The city will be almost significantly transformed really on its highways network, and it will have a major impact on our transport infrastructure. For example, it's going to help deliver clean air. You know, that's something which is something which probably hasn't come out, but will. We need to talk about that and how that's going to improve our commitment to clean air in the city by this scheme delivery. So, in short, I hope you accept the amendment as it stands. I think that I am attempting here to add value and to work in collaboration with yourselves and all councillors within this chamber to move forward on the basis that's written in the amendment, and hopefully we can all agree to move forward. Thank you.
Have we got a seconder, please? Seconder for the amendment. Thank you, Councillor Barker. Okay. Right. Any speakers on the amendment, please?
I'm interested to know that the liaising is working into Mackworth, but the contacts I've had with the various people from Highways England about different aspects of the scheme haven't borne the same fruit. So, you know, well done. I'd love to know who your contacts are. They're to mine. I accept the amendment. I think some of it is unnecessary, and I think it's actually better practice for there to be information coming out to councillors in a more generic, mainstream manner than through most changes to motions in terms of what's happening in the area, because I don't think I want to put forward a motion every time I want an update on a subject that's there might be an update for. So I think this is a message that we do need to have clear lines of communication, as you say there, and have information being provided more proactively. And I think that is really my issue here, is that we are not communicating well enough, either, I learned tonight, within the council, and nor obviously from other points, from other councillors from other wards with Highways England. So I'd appreciate that this is followed up with maybe a meeting with Highways England to which all councillors who feel they have an interest could come to. And I think if you could facilitate something like that would be very helpful. But as I say, I'm happy to accept this amendment.
Any other speakers? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think Councillor Kerr's effectively made the points that I was going to make. The only thing I would add is I do welcome the paragraph 3 talking about the multi-agency behavioural change group, which I was not aware of, and I think that's an excellent opportunity for us all to get involved with getting people out of their cars and onto bicycles, walking and public transport, particularly in view of what's going to happen to those junctions over the next 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Poulter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Briefly, just to pick up on Councillor Pegg's comments, this has been on the radar of many councillors of those wards that's going to be seriously affected for many years. There's been a raft of meetings, both here at the university, during the consultations that have taken place, and we fully intend for those liaison meetings to continue. There is an opportunity for input into the public inquiry that will be ongoing to make sure people get their points across. And actually, for me, this looks like a subject that would be a relevant piece of work for one of the scrutiny boards to be able to take on board, to be able to look at in detail. Because the problem is, as Councillor Holmes alluded to, this isn't just a problem for Alistair, who've been talking to them, or Mackworth, who's been talking to them already, or even Darley, who've been to meetings with me to seek reassurances on this already. It's a problem, potentially a problem for all 51 councillors, because it's going to reverberate across the city. Unfortunately, it's not one of those that's going to go away. It's a set of circumstances that all we can do is mitigate by proper communication the effect on the residents of Derby to get the massive benefit out of the changes that are going to be made. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other speakers? Councillor Willett.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the experience of some of us tonight, I know Councillor Ingle came in quite frustrated with the gridlock on Pride Park, and I know from personal experience how frustrating that gridlock on when Pride Park gets gridlocked, how frustrating it can be. And indeed, I got gridlock coming down through Chester Green, so I arrived a bit sort of frustrated tonight as well with the traffic. So I think the fact that we've seen over the last weeks as well with the floods, it took me on that 8th of November 2.5 hours to get home from Rolls-Royce across the other side of the city to where I live, a journey that normally is about 15-20 minutes. So it does show that what one event or a few events can do to our roads here in Derby and cause them to get gridlocked. So I very much welcome this motion, and I think, you know, our experience have shown the importance of us actually preparing and planning for this, because it looks as if it's going to go on for quite a few years. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other speakers? Right, we'll move to a vote on the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, please show. Thank you. Any against? The amendment wins against the motion. Right, we're going to the next one.
Oh no, Councillor Kerr has the other.
Oh, sorry. Do you wish to make a comment? No, thank you. Okay, we're going to the next one.
We need to vote on the substantive amendment.
Right, we'll vote again on the substantive motion then, please. All please show. Paul?
As amended.
As amended, yeah. As amended by the amendment, yeah. Okay. I think we all know, don't we? Any against? Yeah. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do not intend to dwell too long on this very simple but hugely significant motion. not just for this council but the future of our city. Agreeing this motion tonight is the formal start of a process, and we should all look forward to a detailed discussion and consultation with all stakeholders. Now is not the time to have the debate about the pros and the cons. The consultation will allow all groups and independents to make better and more informed decisions based on the consultation response. All out elections was suggested as part of the corporate peer review, and we agreed to look into this along with the consideration of a committee system. Amber Valley have recently made the change to all outs, and it will also be good for us to take their perspective on this. Likewise, Birmingham has also changed recently, so we should engage with them. We will collectively send a strong message to all the communities we represent and other stakeholders in our city if we can unanimously approve this motion this evening.
Councillor Russell, I understand you second it. Do you wish to speak now or reserve the right?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to formally second the motion and reserve my right to speak.
Right. Speakers? Councillor Barker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise on behalf of the Conservative Group and accept this motion relating to the electoral cycle. It's a common understanding that public consultation must take place when councils consider moving to whole council elections, and we therefore acknowledge that this is an opportune moment for the motion to be brought and, following consultation, considered at a later date post the council elections in May 2020. In acceptance of the motion, I would wish to state that we only agree to consultation at this point and make that very point. Consultation is exactly that, and it is only a sounding board from the general public to be considered with other detail at the appropriate time. On that understanding, we welcome the motion and will vote accordingly.
Councillor Skelton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been discussed by group leaders, and we did come to the conclusion that there was not the actual numbers, the 2/3 required, to actually make this change if it was going to happen. It therefore seems rather strange to actually consult on something that we know doesn't have the 2/3 majority support within the council. So on that grounds, my group will certainly not be voting in favour of this. I found it also interesting that Councillor Shanker thinks it should be taken alongside the work that's being done on the committee system. And again, I'm afraid we disagree with that. They are two separate issues and they should remain two separate issues. It may well be that some people, for their own mischievous reasons, wish to delay again the move to committees. But again, we stand firm on that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council changed to the current boundaries back in 2001-2002. And as part of that consultation, the Electoral Commission asked us, well, it was one of the times when we could talk about the electoral cycle, and it was an opportunity to be able to discuss our electoral cycle. At that point, there was only one submission that made any comment about our electoral cycle. There were submissions from political groups and others. If it had been an issue at that time, then I'm sure that that there would have been comments coming in at that opportunity from the business sector and others to say that we wanted change, but there wasn't. There was only one recommendation, and that was to continue with the same cycle as we had before, and that is what was accepted at that time by the Electoral Commission. There is one other thing that has changed between then and now, which is significant, and that's the way in which we conduct our business. Because the executive standard of decision-making, the Cabinet, as we've been using since about that time, came in, again, in that period, 2001 to 2003, it was then that decision was taken and that mode of decision-making changed. We now know that this is something which a number of local authorities are moving back to committees. And the fact that there are also people who are moving and finding that elections by thirds is no longer satisfactory when you have a cabinet type of government, the two things seem to be coming together. If you have cabinet government, people want to have all-up elections because it works better for cabinet government. If you have committees, there was not a problem with elections by thirds, and lots of people had elections by thirds and committees without any issues. So to put the two issues on the same point, the same paper, is making a wrong decision. We're currently going through a process to say, do we want to go back to committees? Once we've gone back to committees, find out how they work, we then need to say, if they are still not working for us and there are good reasons for moving to all-up elections, we then need to take that decision, probably 2-3 years from when the committees are introduced. This point is much too early. We're going to be making the wrong decision for the wrong reasons, taking away democracy from the people of Derby and making it actually harder to get good quality councillors elected from all our parties. So I think we do better to serve Derby and Derby's people by continuing to have elections by thirds and not rushing in to a decision for the wrong reasons. So can I recommend people to vote against this motion? Thank you.
Councillor Ingle.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, for this opportunity to speak. You're right, I have lost a lot of weight. I'm glad you noticed. All these reasons that have come out so far for not going to all-out elections, they're all well and good. But what would worry me more about going out for all-out elections, if we remember the previous leader of this council, I could not ever vote for something that could leave somebody like him in power unchallenged for 4 years. I could not do that. Couldn't do that for the City of Derby. So I'll be voting against this, and I hope everybody else will too. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Russell, would you like to make a contribution, please?
Yes, Mr Mayor, just very briefly. There's been some conflation here between moving to all-out elections and a committee system. The only reference that Councillor Shanker made was around the peer review, where both of those items were mentioned. That is the only reason that Councillor Shanker mentioned them. There is no intention by this group to conflate those two issues, and neither would we seek to. As Councillor Kerr said, they are two very separate and distinct issues, so we don't seek to conflate the two. Now, Councillor Skelton made the argument that group leaders have had a discussion and group leaders have decided there aren't a two-thirds majority in the chamber to make this happen. The leader of the council shaking his head there. Maybe that's not right, but who knows? My argument would be this is not actually about the decision to move to all-out elections. We will have that debate at some point in the future, I'm sure. Each of us will have a view on whether we would seek to do that or not. This motion is purely about asking the people of Derby what they think. And actually, if your assessment is right and there isn't a two-thirds majority, a consultation is there to inform the decision makers of the views of the people of the city. So those numbers may well, in fact, change. And Councillor Kerr, talking about a consultation that happened in 2000 or 2001, I mean, come on, Lucy, things do change. I was about 10 or 11 years old then. Things change, you know. People change, their views change, you know. So I think we need to be realistic in making the assessment that is it too difficult to ask that this council ask the people of Derby what they would like to see? I don't think it is. Bring the consultation responses back here. They will inform part of the discussion around whether we move to do this or not. What's there to be scared of?
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Certainly for giving us your age as well. Okay. Councillor Shanker, would you like to sum up?
Happy to proceed to the vote, Mr Mayor.
Okay, we'll move to a vote then. All those in favour, please. Any against? Thank you. Any against? Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Council, a year ago we supported the Charter Against Modern Slavery, a fantastic commitment by this Council, which we've had an update on tonight. I now ask for your support to help Derby City Council pursue good tax conduct. In the last 5 years, 17.5% of UK public procurement contracts with a combined value of £37.5 billion were won by businesses with connections to a tax haven. Whilst the UK government has closed many tax avoidance loopholes in recent years, an estimated £7 billion of corporation tax receipts are still going astray as a result of profit shifting alone. Paying tax shouldn't be seen as a burden. At a time of unprecedented underfunding, every council has to be a careful steward of public funds. Balancing the books whilst making sure the people who need support receive it is a constant challenge which we're well aware of. We as a council should consider a company's ethics and how they pay their taxes, as well as value for money and quality of service when undertaking procurement. Tax enables us as a council to provide essential services. It helps us counter financial inequalities. Thanks, Jack. We can't simply exclude tax-dodging companies from our procurement process. It's not that easy. It's very difficult to exclude potential suppliers on the basis of bad tax conduct. So the Council's for Fair Tax Declaration focuses on pursuing good tax conduct where possible and encouraging tax transparency. This shouldn't be seen as an optional add-on. This should be how Derby City Council operates. We work hard to serve our local community. It's why most of us became councillors. By signing up to the Council's for Fair Tax Declaration, we can pioneer the promotion of responsible tax conduct. By signing up to the declaration tonight, we would be the 7th council in the country to take this step. By signing up to the declaration, we would be leading by example and demonstrating good practice. By signing up to the declaration, we'd be telling Derby we're fighting for a better deal, because Derby deserves better.
Councillor Leathergrave, I believe you're seconding this item. You wish to speak now, reserve your right.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. This motion speaks for itself in terms of the case it builds for any council to adopt this declaration, and Councillor West has made an unassailable case for its adoption in her opening speech. I'm afraid, though, that if you, Mr Mayor, and others think that I'm confining my support to that observation, you'll be disappointed. It's ethically right that this council should indeed adopt this motion as tabled. And I ask fellow councillors to bear the points I will make should this be scrutinised in any other forum of the council at a later date. The City Council at present quite rightly works strenuously to recover arrears of council tax and aggressively seeks to ensure that fines issued by the council are paid in full. Council taxpayers will be pleased that this takes place on their behalf and that the Council's stance on these two issues sets the climate for compliance and will no doubt to some extent deter those who are thinking of not paying. The overwhelming majority of residents we all represent, and indeed many of us councillors, will pay their income tax through PAYE. It's surely a given that our residents, with few exceptions, are of the view that anybody in every organisation should pay in full the taxes they are due to pay and pay them in a timely manner. By adopting this declaration, we voice the view of our residents on this matter. Our PAYE residents are unable to set up offshore vehicles to avoid tax, and they may have no recourse to dodgers in paying stamp duty. Why should the Council, which procures on a daily basis goods and services on their behalf, always with an eye to best value, and spends vast amounts of public money doing so, turn a blind eye to sharp practices by organisations and companies which seek to do business with it? The best value element of procurement is already surrounded by a host of ethical tests to ensure that due diligence and research has been taken on organisations tendering for business with the Council. During this work, the procurement team could tie in searches for issues outlined in items 3, 4, 5 and 6 in the final paragraph of the motion, so that the true nature of bidding organisations can be established, thus maybe rendering their ethicality on tax. The Council would not, I believe, wish in any way to give a signal that it is happy to do business with knowingly questionable organisations, as this is complicit acceptance of it and tarnishes our reputation. I doubt residents would approve of such a stance by their council. We wouldn't do business knowingly with traders who use slave labour or child labour if it came to our attention, and we have tests for these. This motion has been adopted by a number of our councils. They have sent a clear message to their residents and to businesses which wish to become part of their supply chain. I fully support this motion as it shows leadership and engenders a culture of timely tax compliance by all, not just PAYE payers, at a time of great difficulty for the public sector, a sector which relies in great part from funding originating from all kinds of taxation. Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors, let us, as a council, give this money tree a shake and see if at least some low-hanging fruit could be dislodged for the benefit of all. I second this motion.
Councillor Ralston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the risk of scaring absolutely everybody in this room and some officers, I'm sure, I want to make it clear that we don't want to ignore this motion that you've set out in front of us here today. Actually, the information and the validation of what it is that you're presenting actually needs to be taken in a much more considered manner. As the Cabinet Member for Finance and Procurement, I'll be on a train at 6:34 tomorrow morning down to London for a procurement conference where I'm sure I'll learn lots of useful information that we can bring to the table around this. In relation to it as in general, I think what I'm trying to say is we definitely need to work on this closer together. We need to look at options of how we can make this much more bespoke to Derby City. I think we need to further scrutinise the principles of it to make it much more in order to make sure we can comply with what's within it. What I don't want to do today is to sit here and say, oh, absolutely, we can do X, Y, Z and with bells on. I would rather take this away, look at it in much more complexity and detail, and all come together to present it at a point in time when we can work cross-party, hopefully, to bring this back to Council or Cabinet. And to do that, I'd like to make an amendment or table a motion under CP 59, Article J, which is refer the subject back to the Committee of Corporate Resource and Scrutiny, if I may, Mr. Mayor. If I can have a seconder.
We'll go to item 16 on the agenda, which is the move the final item business. I ask councillors to consider a resolution to exclude the press and the public under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972 due to the likely disclosure of exempt information. Councillor Poulter, will you move the recommendation, please? Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Matthew Holmes. Anybody wants to speak before we go to a vote, please? Nobody? Good. Go to a vote. All in favour, please show. Thank you. Any against? Right.